All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're getting into something really fascinating, the actual clinical mechanisms professionals use to rewire faulty behavior patterns. If you've ever felt totally stuck, trapped by your own actions, unhelpful routines, or just stubborn thought patterns, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to pull back the curtain on the highly structured world of behavior therapy and show you exactly how real change happens.
So, let's jump right in with a super relatable problem: breaking a bad habit. Honestly, we all have them, right? Maybe it's reaching for your phone the second you feel stressed, or maybe it's something way more intense, like a severe phobia that literally dictates your daily life. The big question we're looking at today is, can these deeply ingrained behaviors just be unlearned? Well, if you ask a behavior therapist, the answer is a massive yes. It's not magic, it's just mechanics. Which brings us to Section 1, the root of behavior: faulty learning in the present.
Here's the crucial thing to understand right off the bat. Behavior therapists, they aren't going to ask you to lie on a couch and endlessly psychoanalyze your childhood. Nope. Instead, they treat your symptoms strictly as faulty learning. Think of it like an outdated app on your phone that just needs a software update. Now, the past is useful, sure, but only as a quick diagnostic tool to see where the habit started. The real heavy lifting work of rewiring your brain, that happens 100% in the present. You are not your past. You're just a set of learned behaviors.
Okay, let's look at Section 2, the behavioral analysis, decoding the malfunctional. To fix a behavior, a therapist basically has to become a detective, and they use a very specific three-step framework. First, they pinpoint the malfunctioning behavior, the exact action causing the issue. Second, they hunt for antecedent factors. These are your triggers, the environments or feelings that kick off the behavior. And third, they look for maintaining factors. What's the reward? What's the payoff keeping this bad habit alive? Because honestly, if you don't know the triggers and the rewards, you literally cannot fix the habit.
Let's see what this looks like in the real world. Take a college student who comes in desperate to quit smoking. Through some digging, the therapist figures out the student always lights up while cramming for exams. So that exam anxiety, that's our antecedent factor, the trigger. And right after they smoke, they get a temporary wave of relief. That relief is the maintaining factor. They haven't just developed a quote-unquote bad habit. They've acquired an operant response. Their body powerfully, biologically maintains the smoking because of that sweet reward of reduced anxiety. So, once we've cracked the code on why it's happening, the game plan is incredibly straightforward. Extinguish the faulty behavior and swap it out for a good one. How? By tweaking the conditions before the action, those antecedents, and after the action. For example, say you have a kid who refuses to eat dinner. An antecedent tweak would be just giving them a much smaller afternoon snack. By dinner time, they're actually hungry. It completely changes the reinforcing value of the meal. Just a simple environmental tweak, and boom, you've completely rewired the outcome.
All right, moving into Section 3, the reinforcement toolkit, rewiring the responses.
Okay, we need to clear something up right now because this is a massive point of confusion. Negative reinforcement is not a punishment. Actually, scratch that. It's basically the opposite. It just means doing something to escape pain, which accidentally reinforces a behavior, like putting on a heavy winter coat to escape the freezing cold. The relief reinforces you grabbing the coat. Aversive conditioning, though, that is a totally different clinical tool. That's when you actively and repeatedly pair a bad habit with a painful or unpleasant consequence to intentionally crush that habit. I know, it sounds super intense, but this perfectly illustrates how aversive conditioning works. In a strictly controlled clinical setting, an alcoholic might be given a mild but completely safe electric shock the exact second they smell alcohol. After doing this repeatedly, the brain automatically links the smell of the drink with the physical shock. The alcohol suddenly becomes intensely aversive. It physically helps them extinguish that deep desire by literally overriding the old reward pathway with a new, highly deterrent one.
But hey, on the flip side, we have the positive toolkit. Positive reinforcement is using simple rewards to boost good behaviors. Like, if a kid never does their homework, you might offer to cook their absolute favorite meal, but only on days they actually sit down to study. For bigger issues, clinics or schools will use a token economy. You do the desired behavior, you get a token. You save them up, and you cash them in for a bigger reward, like a cool outing. It turns positive change into a highly structured game, which is incredibly motivating.
Let's head over to Section 4, the power of ignoring, differential reinforcement.
Sometimes the clinically proven best way to kill a bad habit is just completely ignoring it. This is called differential reinforcement.
In practice, this means pouring overwhelming attention and praise onto the behaviors you want to see while giving absolute zero attention, literally not even a sigh of frustration, to the behaviors you want to stop. You're drawing a hard line. Only good behaviors get a reaction.
Picture this. A young girl throws a massive, sulking tantrum every time she's told she can't go to the cinema. A therapist will tell the parents to do two things that are incredibly hard to pull off at the same time. First, you only take her to the movies if she asks calmly. Second, you completely ignore her the millisecond she starts to sulk. No negotiating, no scolding. Over time, what happens? The polite asking goes up because it actually works, and the sulking literally starves to death from a total lack of attention.
Next up, Section 5, Conquering Deep Fears, Systematic Desensitization. So, what about crippling, irrational phobias? For these, therapists use a famous technique based on almost physics-like logic applied to the human mind. It's called reciprocal inhibition. Simply put, you cannot be deeply physically relaxed and completely terrified at the exact same time. It's biologically impossible. They are mutually exclusive states. So, the theory is, if you can build up your relaxation force to be strong enough, it will physically block out the weaker force of anxiety.
Psychiatrist Joseph Wolpe turned this into a structured system called systematic desensitization. First, you and the therapist build a fear hierarchy, starting with a mild thought at the bottom all the way to the worst-case scenario at the top. Then you learn progressive muscular relaxation. You learn to physically tense and release muscles until you are profoundly calm. Once you're there, you just mentally imagine the lowest item on your list. If you feel even a tiny hint of tension, you stop, reset, and relax again.
Because you are so deeply physically relaxed, you can actually tolerate those mildly scary thoughts, and session by session, you climb higher up that fear ladder. The relaxation is repeatedly paired with the fear trigger until the fear just extinguishes. By the end, you aren't just white-knuckling it through the day, you have literally rewired your body's automatic stress response to that specific phobia. It's truly amazing.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, Rewiring Your Habits, the Path Forward. Look, we don't always have to learn the hard way through direct trial and error. We can use modeling or vicarious learning to safely rewire ourselves just by watching others. A therapist might act as a role model, physically showing you how to react or communicate in a tough situation. By watching closely and getting rewarded for small, incremental steps toward that target behavior, you can totally change your life without having to make all the mistakes yourself. We are incredibly adaptable creatures if we just have the right blueprint.
I absolutely love this quote because it is just so empowering. It means you are not permanently chained to the habits or anxieties of your past. Sure, your history explains how the faulty wiring got there in the first place, but you possess the clinical tools, right now, today, to completely change the circuitry. So take a second today to really analyze one of your own habits using the tools we just talked about. Pinpoint the unwanted behavior, find the antecedents triggering it, and identify the maintaining factors keeping it alive. You absolutely have the power to alter those triggers and intentionally change your reinforcements. So the only question left is, what faulty behavior are you going to rewire today? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this helps you tap into the incredible adaptability of your own mind.